Morning. Happy. Does it have a name? Does Monday of Lent have a name?
You can get away with calling them all holy.
Holy.
Yeah.
So this is the Holy Week.
Yes. Okay.
And I had a suggestion from Miss Kim. She's like, you've got to talk about Lent and Holy Week. And I said, yes, ma'am. And Kira, not a minister,
I'm not a lay person.
but I've been following her. She's with St. Mary's and not the convent.
Thank
And they've been doing the 40 days of Lent. You've been very focused on writing and the labyrinth, which I'm fascinated by, and all of the above. So
That's right.
welcome here
Thank you.
again.
Thank you. Good to be back.
She lives 3 minutes away now. So many exciting, but she's going to come on and talk about St. Mary's another time.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about Lent. We are entering, yesterday was Palm Sunday, and we're in Holy Week, the holiest week of the entire year.
It is for the Christian church. Right. Yeah, but Lent is really the 40 days excluding Sundays.
Excluding
Fun
Sundays.
fact.
I didn't know.
All of the Sundays are mini Easter.
Huh.
And so they don't in the
Okay.
But starting with Ash Wednesday, traditionally in the ancient church, this was a time of preparation for new. So these 40 days of reflection, the key word has always really been about. So it's looking at our lives and looking at how Jesus lived his life. Are we out of alignment anywhere? How could we be more generous? What sacrifices can we make to bring our lives more in line with the way Jesus has lived his life? So 40 days of preparation. This week, the reflections that you're referencing was I started researching and what I was going to write. A theologian named Frederick Buechner said, often we look at the past and say, I'm sorry. And he encourages us during Lent to look forward and say, wow. So it's that repentance piece is all about, yes, I am sorry for these things. And look what Jesus has done. Look what's possible. Wow. And so now we come into Holy Week and we get the privilege really to slow down and walk those last few days of Jesus' life with him, with the disciples, with the crowds. What were those last days like? And how can we participate in them? These services during Holy Week on Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, they're more interactive. We're not just sitting in the pews and listening. We get to participate in ways that we don't often get to in worship.
So how did you start the journey this year?
This year, I decided the spiritual practice I chose was the labyrinth. And so the labyrinth is not a maze. There are no dead ends. But the labyrinth is a path. There's one on St. Mary's Sewannee's campus. There's one at the convent. There's one in, am I saying it right? Abbey.
Abbo's Alley?
Thank you. There's one there. So
Yes,
there are
there is.
several in the community. But as you walk the labyrinth, you think about what you need to release to draw closer to God, what it means to rest with God. And then as you return to the world, how will you live differently? But all of these spiritual practices, they help us slow down. In a world that's moving fast, in a social media culture that is sound bites and loud and noisy, Lent, these 40 days are an opportunity to slow down, to be still, to ask questions instead of having answers all the time.
Wow. And this is more of a meditation, would you say, with the labyrinth? I've been fascinated by the labyrinth.
It is a meditation. It is a meditation. Some days as I walk, I think I'm never going to get to the center. Or maybe I can just shortcut and get out. And I think that's because I'm always thinking about the next task, the next thing to do. Am I going to be late for my meeting? And so it's almost like an antidote.
Yeah.
To learn and to practice slowing down. But it is very contemplative. The first time I ever walked the labyrinth, it felt to me like these invisible walls grew up around the outside, and I just had this very intimate and personal experience with God. And everybody finds their own way. For some people it's hiking, for some people it's journaling, for some people it's art. So it can be anything that just allows you to set aside time to be with God. Yeah.
Because it is a little crazy out there. You need a labyrinth to bring you back in.
Right.
So this week, how do you envision Holy Week? Like, what is the meaning of Holy Week besides the obvious?
Yeah, it really is. So I was thinking on the way here, many of us show up for Easter Sunday. We get the hats and the gloves and the beautiful dresses, and we all show up, and more people show up on Easter, so it's kind of a reunion. You know, we get to see people we haven't seen for a while. It's a celebration. But like so many celebrations in our lives, if you have walked the whole journey, it's that more meaningful. If you have walked with anyone through cancer who has gotten to remission, if you've walked with anyone through addiction who has gotten to healing, anyone through depression, that healing is so much more meaningful and deep and rich because you've walked that whole painful journey. And so if you can take the time to walk this journey with Jesus during Holy Week, Maundy Thursday, Maundy comes from Latin, the mandate, a new commandment, because as Jesus sat with his disciples, he said, I give you a new commandment, to love one another. So it's Maundy Thursday, and you can get your feet washed. In some congregations, you wash each other's feet. But you remember what it was like for Jesus to sit at a table with friends who would betray him, who would deny him. 3 times. And to imagine that Jesus knows what that's like. And then Good Friday, the crucifixion, to remember that Jesus was killed by the state, and to sit and remember the pain, the agony, and to remember that Jesus didn't succumb to violence himself. In the garden, when there was violence, he said, put away your sword. So again, you're walking all of this with Jesus. And then Holy Saturday, we don't know. Jesus is gone. And we can feel the women grieving, his friends grieving. We've all been in that Holy Saturday spot in our life where we don't know what's next. We don't know if there will be a resurrection.
Yeah, you have no idea. They had no idea.
They had no idea. Jesus had tried to tell them and give them clues, but you couldn't imagine a resurrection. And so then if you can make space for that in your life this week, when you show up on Easter to celebrate the resurrection, it's just that much more profound. So I think that's the real beauty of Holy. And it's a challenge. Our lives are busy. We're parenting. We have jobs. We're putting vegetables in the ground. You know, these days are busy. And setting that time aside is a spiritual practice in and of itself, to show up. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been trying on Sundays not to do anything but keep it unto itself, and it really has made a difference.
Yeah. How have you felt the difference?
The slowing down, because my life is very crazy, and be able to slow down and just not think of anything, and read my passages and just decompress.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, I should say, once you get a taste of that, it's like, oh, I want to keep doing this.
Oh, yeah.
I want to keep doing this. It's valuable.
It really is. So it's a good practice. I was telling her how it kind of reminded me was New Year's. I always find that a challenge. What am I going to give up this year? Or what am I going to do this year? Lent is like that. You're supposed to sacrifice something and also give as much as you can.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's a habit.
And so I think in the I think often people think Lent is only for Catholics or Lent is only for Episcopalians. but Lent is for anyone in the Christian tradition.
Mm-hmm.
But the Catholics made famous giving up meat on famous. I don't know if that's the word I want to use. They had a practice of giving up meat on Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
And so even like Burger King and started having a fish sandwich, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
the culture kind of tried to keep up. But the idea was not just to punish yourself, but it's like every time you gave that up, you thought, why am I giving this up? I'm giving this up because Jesus made sacrifices. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, some people keep a rubber band on their wrist, or, you know, it's a reminder. Oh, I'm giving this up. Or some folks give up Instagram. Some folks give up TV. Some folks give up. And the idea is that, okay, I have this new time. Can I give that to God? Mm-hmm. So all the time I spent doom scrolling, can I read scripture instead? Mm-hmm. All the time I sat just vegging out watching TV in the evenings, can I talk to my spouse and look him in the eyes instead? Mm-hmm. So these sacrifices are not to punish us, but they're to open space for something else good and life-giving.
Oh, that's wonderful. I've got an app on my phone, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a year through the Bible, and mm-hmm. I do it every year since my first Lent that I practiced. 4 years ago, maybe. I think I started Lent, okay. And I would visit other churches, and I would read the Bible every day. That was my first Lent. And after the first year, I was like, I can't. I got to keep on. I mean, you miss the word. That's right. And so it is a habit, and once you get in a habit, you just continue in theory. Hopefully,
that's the idea. Yeah, and Lent is going to come back again next year. Mm-hmm. So if you have, you know, like any practice, suddenly it's like it was 5 days a week, and now it's 3 days a week, and now it's what, and then Lent comes around, like, right, that was really meaningful to me.
Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Well, I was reading in my app yesterday. I read ahead, and today is when he was flipping tables. I forget that was Holy Week. So he comes in Palm Sunday, mm-hmm. and then Monday he's flipping tables.
That's right. Well, again, it's all imagination. I wasn't there, but Jesus comes into these shouts of Hosanna, and knows what's coming. And to go into the temple and see that people are profiting on the church, that people, so the context was that people had to give doves or goats, or, you know, to give sacrifice in the temple. Mm-hmm. And people said, oh, well, don't use the civic money. You have to buy temple money. And then they were charging interest on the temple money. And so the folks sitting there at the tables were making a profit on those who were coming to worship. And I can just imagine Jesus, like, look, I've got a few days left and I am done. Right? And so Jesus was fully human. Not immune to emotion and frustration. You know, I met a woman in Chattanooga just a few weeks ago. I was preaching there. She was in her 80s. And she was talking about she was getting people organized to go to this protest. And she was organizing the women at her church for this. And she was just so big. And she said, I've only got a few years left to change the world.
Yep.
And so just imagine Jesus, like, I thought, I've just got a few days left. Stop doing this and flipping over tables. That's right. In God's house. This is my Father's house. Stop. See, now you're gonna get me preaching.
Well, no, please do, because I mean, welcome to the show. But I mean, I know the story of the flipping tables. I have never connected it to Holy Week. I know that sounds crazy, but I always am learning something, a nugget that will jump out at me. Mm-hmm. And for him to be flipping tables before he dies, because he's like,
it's like I'm done.
Judas and everybody, you know, and here it's coming down, and y'all are doing this, and he just got. I guess he was mad.
Oh, absolutely. He's been out with the crowds and healing people, and and the widow's mite, and the woman, pouring her perfume out. And he's like, people are sacrificing already. Don't charge them to worship. Don't charge them.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Now, do you think that because the state is who killed them, but it was, the Pharisees, all those people, Pharisees and Sadducees, right? That he's flipping the tables. They got mad at him, and then do you think that just made what happened happen?
I think this is an age-old. The pattern repeats itself over and over again. But I think religious leaders, also human, I think when somebody comes in and begins to challenge your way of thinking, it's scary. It's scary when Jesus is, just challenging the way things have always been and pointing to truth. I think the religious leaders are also nervous. Yeah, I think absolutely. I think when women began to be ordained, the men are going to get nervous. When churches are integrated, people get nervous. It's just this pattern that's going to keep repeating.
We don't like change.
We don't like change. And we don't like we don't like to give up power. No one likes to give up.
Right.
And when Jesus says, actually, we should be sharing this power, we should be supporting one another. This is not the way God had intended this. I think so. I think it's more about them being Jews and more about them having power. And the same for the government. So I think it's dangerous that we begin to demonize the Jews. It's not that they were Jewish. It's that they had power.
It was a power.
It was a power.
Absolutely.
It was about being human.
Yeah. Well, true. Thank goodness for Jesus, because the Old Testament was brutal. We say that every single time. But this week is just the most profound week to think about that and to go into the story and to think more about the future.
Yeah.
And doing it better.
I think that's right. And I was sharing with you before we began, the sermon that I heard yesterday was about the priest focused on the crowd. And that everyone in the crowd, she read this litany of everyone that was in the crowd. It was religious leaders, it was civic leaders, it was unhoused folk, it was immigrants, it was the leaders and the least of these. Everyone was in the crowd because they are all attracted to Jesus. Well, I'm in the crowd and you're in the crowd. You and I probably don't agree on a lot of things in the bulk of our lives, but we're drawn to Jesus. We're curious about Lent. So how beautiful that we can have this conversation and we can partner together in the community. So how is in the crowd, how do we recognize what draws us all to Jesus and focus on that? Love.
Amen. God hates people when we get divided.
Yeah.
All right, any last words before we head out? I appreciate you taking the time this last minute on Sunday. I'm like, I've got to do this.
I'm so delighted to be here. This Lent has been really meaningful. I'm a writer, first and foremost. And so be able to write about Lent this year has been really meaningful to me and a more rich Lent for me. So I just encourage anyone to explore this year. If you're like, I don't know what this is about, I don't know what she's talking about, there are churches all over the mountain that have these services, and just step in and experience.
How can they sign up for reading your stuff?
If you go to stmaryswanee.org, and in the upper right-hand corner, it says, Let's Stay in Touch. And you can click there for the newsletter, and you'll get the
It was really good.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, I'm going to send Miss Kara out to spread joy and sunshine wherever she goes. It is Holy Week, and Jesus is flipping tables, baby. He's mad. He's like, quit it. So, but seriously, I'm going to send her out. I'm so appreciative of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Hold tight before we go on break.
Okay.
We are heading out. Thank our sponsors because we love them, and we'll be right back. As always, thanks for watching Morning on the Mountain. I'll see you in a minute.